History tells the story of the world and of our lives. Sometimes that history goes bump in the night. Broadcasting from the center of oddity and the supernatural in Central Florida, it's the History Goes Bump podcast.
Hello, you spooktacular people. Welcome to History Goes Bump Redux. I am your host, Diane.
And this is Kelly.
Kelly, on this episode, we're going to be going to Pittsburgh. And originally, this episode featured Pittsburgh's Federal Courthouse, the more modern one. I think it was built in the 1930s. And it wasn't a really long show, so I was like, we need to add some more stuff to this. So we're calling this one Haunted Law in Pittsburgh because we're going to throw in the Allegheny County Courthouse and Jail.
Oh, very cool.
Because we've got ghosts there, too.
Did you know they put French fries on salads there?
I didn't until they did it.
Until we were served one.
It's the one fun fact about Pittsburgh I wish I didn't know.
Well, I mean, I could say having them on a sandwich or something like that, because apparently they put chips, as you would call them, I guess.
On everything.
They put French fries on everything. But I was really shocked to have it on a chicken salad.
Yeah, I know we've told this story before, but we just went down to this restaurant that was down the street from the hotel we were staying in, and we were near Pittsburgh. It was Harrisburg, actually. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to get a salad with grilled chicken on it. And then they bring it out and put it in front of me, and it has French fries all over the top of it. And I was like, did they have some kind of an accident in the kitchen? And the waitress is hoping I don't notice.
They collided with each other and the French fries just jumped right on top of the salad.
But I didn't say anything right away. So I was just kind of pushed the French fries to the side because I try not to eat a lot of carbs and stuff. And then Jared whips out his phone and starts Googling. And he's like, oh, apparently it's a thing.
It sure is.
And I was like, so much for eating a healthy salad when you throw French fries all over the top of it.
We suffered through it.
All right, Kelly, are you ready to go back?
I'm ready. This Redux originally was going to be about Pittsburgh's Federal Courthouse. But when we learned that just down the same street was Allegheny County's courthouse and the Allegheny County Jail was just across from that, we figured, why not do all these haunted law-adjacent buildings? So that's what we have for you here. The Federal Courthouse is the newest building, and yet it still manages to have spirits. The much more architecturally appealing Allegheny County Courthouse has even more ghosts. And it isn't surprising that the Allegheny County Jail, with its own bridge of sighs, is the most haunted. Join us for Haunted Law in Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh is nicknamed the Gateway to the West, which seems fitting since it is situated where the Allegheny and the Monongahela rivers converge and at the head of the Ohio River. For centuries, the area was inhabited by Native American tribes for just that reason. These tribes were numerous and included the Iroquois, Shawnee, Lenape, Seneca, Mohawk, Wyandot, and others. The Meadowcroft Rock Shelter is considered to be the oldest site of human habitation in North America. When the Europeans arrived, smallpox ravaged the area and the tribal populations dwindled to almost nothing. As was the case with many settlements in America, this area was settled by traders initially in 1710. By 1748, the Ohio Company, a land speculation company from Great Britain, acquired acreage in the upper Ohio Valley. The French were already in nearby Logstown. Tensions would rise between the British and the French over the land. At one point, Major George Washington was sent to warn the French to withdraw.
The French and Indian War, or 7 Years' War, started in 1754. The war ended with the signing of the Treaty of Paris, and the French fort Duquesne was razed. and Fort Pitt was built in its place. The fort was named in honor of William Pitt, the Elder, and that is the inspiration for Pittsburgh's name. The area grew steadily and glass production began. Later, steel would become part of the industry. Pittsburgh was built on glass and steel, and by 1816 it was incorporated. Pittsburgh grew into a commercial and industrial powerhouse. That kind of growth meant that the city needed federal services and buildings.
Construction began on the Allegheny Courthouse in 1883 and took 5 years to complete. This is the third courthouse to be built on this spot. The first was wooden and opened in 1794. A new courthouse was completed in 1841 and built in the Greek Revival architectural style, made from gray sandstone. That building deteriorated from corrosion caused by coal smoke and eventually burned in 1882. The current courthouse was designed by Henry Hobson Richardson, or H.H. Richardson, in the Richardson Romanesque style and built by the Norcross brothers. And obviously, I think everybody knows that Romanesque style was named for him. It's a really unique design, and it's very cool considering this is a courthouse. It has this inner courtyard with a fountain, and the courtyard has 4 stories on 3 sides, and then the 4th side has a tower that rises 5 stories. The roof has Ludowici clay tiles, and those are made by an Ohio roofing company named for the German who started the company. The Allegheny County Jail is connected to the courthouse via the Bridge of Sighs, which is indeed modeled after Venice's Bridge of Sighs.
That is so cool.
I wish we had been able to zip over to Pittsburgh to see this, because that would be very cool. And then I know you haven't been to Venice, but I've been a couple times, and so I would have seen both Bridge of Sighs.
I know, dang it.
But it does look very similar to the original.
We'll definitely be making more trips up the East Coast, so we'll pop on over.
The courthouse was built from granite, and 5 murals were added to the interior first floor in 1937.
Old Allegheny County Jail was completed in 1886 and designed by the same architect in his famous style. The jail used the Auburn system, which was popular at the time. This meant that prisoners spent their nights in solitary confinement and worked during the day in groups. Work could include making clothes, nails, barrels, buttons, tools, furniture, and even bigger things like steam engines. This was also part of a for-profit prison system. Silence was key, and all uniforms were the striped variety we are all familiar with. Violence and coercion were used to make prisoners compliant. There were 58 hangings inside the facility. When the new jail was built in 1995, the old jail was redesignated as the Family Division of the Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas. The interior was renovated, but they did keep the rotunda, the cell blocks, and the warden's office, and part of the old cell block was opened as a museum about the jail that offers self-guided tours. The film Silence of the Lambs used the jail and courthouse in scenes. Like most old jails, the warden and his family lived within the walls, and that is where our first ghost story here originates. It seems that Warden Soffel's wife, Kate, had become bored with her life, and it quickly perked up in 1902 when Jack and Ed Biddle were arrested and brought to the jail. The Biddle brothers were from Canada and had formed a gang in Pennsylvania called the Chloroform Gang. Yep, that's because they used chloroform in their crimes. They would overpower their victims with it and then rob them. They did much worse in 1901. They killed a Mount Washington shopkeeper, and so they were convicted and awaiting hanging in the Allegheny County Jail. The brothers were apparently good-looking, and the ladies in town swooned over the infamous duo. Kate was one of those women.
Everybody loves a bad boy.
She became infatuated with Ed Biddle, and she agreed to help them escape. She smuggled them saws and guns, and they were able to saw an opening in the bars of their cells. They put the bars back in place, and in the wee hours of the morning, one of the Biddles called out that his brother was ill. When the guard got to Jack's cell, he lunged out and overpowered the guard and threw him over the railing to the stone floor 16 feet below. And we've talked about this in other old jail episodes that we've done, how easy it was and how close the guards would be to the cells when they were walking by them and stuff to just get, pushed over the railing, and the railings were short. It was almost a death pit for these guards, and so there were some that started building like a net or a catch so that if they did get pushed over the railing, they'd be caught. Clearly, this one did not have that. Using a smuggled gun, Ed shot and wounded another guard. They grabbed the wounded guards and a third guard and locked them in solitary confinement and changed into the guards' street clothes. Kate met up with the men at the trolley, and they took it to the town of Westview and then hiked a mile to a farm. They stole a shotgun and sleigh there and headed to Butler County. But the man who had originally arrested them was already a step ahead, knowing that they would be taking back roads to Canada. And I'd also read that there was like a local citizen that might have seen them and forewarned this guy that, hey, they're in the area.
Oh, wow.
And now a little break for a word about one of our sponsors.
Here is an eyewitness report from one of the detectives. The Biddles were sitting on the right side of the cutter. Mrs. Soffel was on the left side. "Hold up your hands and surrender," Detective McGovern commanded. Ed Biddle jumped up from his seat and, raising a shotgun, fired it at McGovern. He aimed badly, and the shot scattered on the road alongside of McGovern. Detectives McGovern and Roach discharged their Winchesters at Ed Biddle. Both shots took effect. Jack Biddle raised from his seat and discharged his revolver at the three officers. Detective Swinehart settled himself and fired with a revolver at the man. The ball took effect in Biddle's arm. Then all the detectives opened fire on the Biddles. The shots knocked them out of the sleigh. Ed fell sprawling on the snow, and Jack fell on him.
Now, Jack Biddle claimed something quite different. He said, "When we saw the officers coming towards us on the road yesterday evening, we knew it was all up. We did not fire a shot at the officers, but agreed to kill ourselves. I shot myself in the mouth. Ed shot himself over the heart, and Kate Soffel shot herself in the breast. We knew we had no chance to get away, and we knew we would swing if taken back, and that is why we wanted to kill ourselves." They all survived whatever actually happened here and were taken to the jail in Butler, but the brothers only lasted 3 days before succumbing to their wounds. Kate Soffel recovered from a bullet wound she received or gave herself, or I've even heard that she'd asked Ed to shoot her, and she was taken to the Western Penitentiary to serve a 2-year sentence. She was released on good behavior after only 5 months and faced divorce from her husband. She lived until 1909 when she died from typhoid fever. The crime was a big sensation, and later was even made into a movie in 1984 named Mrs. Soffel that starred Mel Gibson, Diane Keaton, and Matthew Modine. Filming took place in the jail. Kate Soffel is said to roam the jail, at least her spirit, perhaps looking for her dead love. She likes to shuffle papers and touches unsuspecting guards who claim to feel cold hands grabbing their arms. A deputy warden of the jail reported that a picture on a wall moved all by itself, and there was a sound like sand shifting in the wall. I don't know what the heck that is.
How bizarre.
Yeah, really weird. The Biddle brothers aren't here in the afterlife, but rather are said to haunt the Calvary Cemetery, where they were buried. What's really interesting is none of them died here at the jail, so for them to all be there, I don't know why. It's a weird kind of thing, because the brothers died at a whole nother jail.
Disembodied voices and murmurs are heard. The former death row area is haunted by William Culp, a prisoner set to be executed in 1907. He actually took his own life. The crime he was on death row for was the murder of his own brother. His spirit was reported by fellow inmates, and they claimed he was repeating the gruesome scene of his crime night after night. The Monongahela Valley Republican wrote on October 24, 1907, Culp, or Culp's ghost, had come into his former cell and began to rehearse the scene of murdering his brother. At least 3 condemned criminals confined in cells along Murderers Row declared that they saw it distinctly. When examined by the warden, they all gave the same description of the ghost, the direction from which it came, and its antics in front of the cells on Murderers Row. They were so terrified that they had to be moved to other cells.
Really had to be something, because you're talking about a bunch of guys that are all on death row, so they didn't just, steal something.
You would expect them to be tough guys and not get scared of a little ghost.
Andrew W. Mellon was the Secretary of the Treasury in the 1930s. He was from Pittsburgh and allocated funds towards the building of a new federal courthouse in the city. Trowbridge and Livingston, a New York architectural firm, was hired to design the building. Construction began in 1931, but a strike stopped the work until the following year. The building is in the stripped classical style, which I've never heard before. Most federal buildings in the 20s and 30s were built in this style, and the name says it all. These buildings are stripped of anything fancy or ornamental. Meaning they're boring.
It's so much judgment.
The federal courthouse does have 2 limestone eagles on either side of the entrance, so there's that at least. The stripped classical style was popular with fascist and totalitarian regimes and fell out of favor after World War II. I think we can all see why, not to mention who wants boring.
The federal building has 2 distinct areas. The front part of the building is 4 stories and housed postal facilities and is built from a steel frame covered with granite. The rear area rises to 11 stories and contains courtrooms, jury rooms, and other offices and is built from limestone. The building was originally built over the railroad tracks that have since been removed. The tracks helped facilitate the delivery of mail. The interior of the building contains doors and window frames made from bronze and aluminum. The south lobby is covered in Alabama pink granite. The floors are gray marble, and the walls are decorated with rope and garland designs. The first floor contains a groin-vaulted terracotta ceiling with gold leaf trim. Groin vaulting is when rounded curves that form a barrel vault come together at right angles.
I'm so glad that I answered all of our questions in this.
Because I was about ready to go down a couple of rabbit holes here. The rest of the courthouse has floors covered in terrazzo and walls of marble wainscot.
The building was officially opened in 1934 to fanfare, which was a way for the government to get people excited about the economy and hopeful about the future since the Great Depression was in full swing. Major postal operations were moved to another building in 1983. The building was added to the National Registry of Historic Places in 1995. Extensive renovations and modernizations were done in 2002. One interesting factoid is that the building contained what were referred to as sneakways on the postal levels. They were suspended above the floors between the walls, and a postal inspector could fit in there and spy on workers through a narrow slit.
Oh, my word.
He would be making sure that no one was opening envelopes or stealing mail. Workers never knew they were being spied upon.
It reminds me of, the hidden passageways and walls, and you're looking at a picture that the eyeballs move.
Yes. I mean, how did they not see? Because you'd have to have slits big enough to be able to see out of. So that just blows my mind that nobody noticed. I mean, I would have noticed, I would think, but...
Yeah, but with it being suspended above them, I don't know. Maybe they're just not looking up at the sky very often.
Yeah, I guess. They're just being busy. Now they just have cameras everywhere, so...
Gerald Joseph Weber attended Harvard University and then received his law degree from the University of Pennsylvania Law School. In 1964, President Lyndon Johnson nominated Weber as a judge for the United States District Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania. In 1976, he became chief judge and served until he went into semi-retirement in 1988. He passed away in 1989 from cancer. Judge Weber was incredibly smart and no-nonsense. He loved a cigar and smoked up to 6 of them a day.
I wonder what kind of cancer he passed from. I bet lung.
And he loved being a judge at the courthouse. Perhaps that is why he has never left. Many claim that his ghost roams the halls to this day. During renovations, contractors repeatedly saw apparitions of Judge Weber walking the 4th floor hallways, still wearing his black robes. One worker claimed that the figure asked him, "How's it going?" and then walked away. Later, he recognized the man in a picture on the wall. It was a portrait of Judge Weber.
I just love that this is a modern building and his death is pretty recent, and yet here he is.
How's it going?
At least I want to believe it's pretty recent. I mean, I graduated from high school in 1989, and I don't want to think about how long ago that was.
You and me both, darling.
The elevator seems to be haunted by the judge as well, because it will stop on the 4th floor and the doors will open even though no one is inside the elevator. The judge's courtroom was on the 8th floor, though, so is it possible that someone else is here at the courthouse as well? If you ask the cleaning staff, they believe there are several haunts in the place. Much of the cleaning staff have had experiences on several floors, including the 9th and 1st floors, and also the 4th floor. One employee has heard her name called out by a disembodied male voice. Doors open and close on their own on the 9th floor, and a cleaning lady claims that the spirit of the former director of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is in the building as well.
The building's maintenance inspector has had experiences. The 4th floor is always dark and carries a spooky air to it, and he claims that he feels cold drafts on that level all the time. No windows are ever open when this happens, but it is an older building. The basement creeps everyone out, with its strange passageways and massive pipes snaking about the entire area. One judge did indeed die in the Federal Courthouse. Judge John McIlvaine had a heart attack in 1963 and died on a couch outside the courtroom on the 6th floor. Is he the one that cleaning people sometimes feel swish by them?
The old Allegheny County Courthouse and Jail have their ghost stories, obviously, which makes sense considering their age and use. The Federal Courthouse is your typical federal building in a typical large city. The idea that it may harbor spirits does make it a little unique. Is it possible that disembodied judges still roam the hallways? Are Pittsburgh's Federal Courthouse and the old jail and courthouse haunted?
That is for you to decide.
Well, I was also glad to throw in the old Allegheny County Courthouse and Jail just because, at least architecturally, they're a lot more interesting
Definitely.
than the Federal Courthouse. But my friend over at the Lift, Dan Foytik, is the one who had suggested this to us originally because he lives in Pittsburgh and he's like, oh, I've heard all kinds of stories about it. You should do that one. So that's why we initially ended up doing it. I want to thank you guys for joining us on this Redux. I've been your host, Diane.
And this has been Kelly.
You take care now. Bye-bye.
We'll be making another...
Several.
Yeah, we'll be making... What in the world was that?
Put a video up there.
That was scary.
What the hell's talking to us? Oh, it's a video in the background.
Oh my God. My stomach went... What is happening?
What? That Bridge of Sighs is haunted.